This podcast is part of the Famous Original Podcast Network family. You can find us by going to www.fopnet.biz.
All over. Contains strong language, strong opinions, and strong beers. It is not meant for children or for those who think they are children. You know who you are.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Hello and welcome to part 1 of episode 90 of Dumb All Over, a progressive podcast with brash opinions on politics, religion, and sometimes pop culture. I am your host, Austin, coming to you from the very rainy state of New York, and as always I'm joined by... Oh, right. I'm not joined by anybody. We've had another technical snafu, and of course, I, being the procrastinator, waited too long before I checked to make sure that all the files were good. So here we are again, listeners, just the two of us. Now, fear not. I know we can salvage the episode that we recorded on Wednesday, but it's just not going to be possible to get it out by Friday morning. So here I am, doing another solo Dumb All Over episode. And you're just going to have to deal with it, all right? I know, you want the fun one, but you got me, the boring one. Before I get into the stories I want to cover in this, we'll make this a short episode, all right? I'll give you guys a break. Enjoy your Friday, seeing as, according to climate scientists, we only have like 20 years left. So I don't want to waste too much of your time. I actually am drinking craft beer, and it's very interesting. I'm once again drinking the Weyerbacher Imperial Pumpkin Ale. I know that was very shocking, and nobody expected me to say that, but that is exactly what I'm drinking. And I think everybody knows the stats by now. You can probably recite it by heart, so I'm just going to skip that part, and I'm going to have a taste. Yeah, it's still good. And everybody knows that, so let's just move on. Now, normally, this is where Tom gets to say, let's move on to the Trump report. But since he's not here, I have to say it. And you have no idea how angry that makes me, because I fucking hate it. But it's true. Let's move on to the Trump report.
Have I done a good job? Have I done a good job?
Not at all. Probably the least of anybody you've ever met.
There's nobody that understands the horror better than me.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Okay, so in the episode that's going to come out as part 2 of this episode, we're going to go over some of the bigger and, I don't know if I should say scarier, maybe more depressing Trump news. So today I figured I'll go over some stories that, a couple that I don't think are getting a lot of attention, and then a couple that are. So first, let's start with a non-Trump story. So I logged on today to get a couple stories, and this is the first one that caught my attention from The Hill. The GOP loads up lame duck agenda as House control teeters. So Republican lawmakers are packing their agenda for the lame duck session after the November 6 elections, recognizing it could be their last shot for at least 2 years to pass legislation under unified GOP control of Congress. Their top priorities include spending legislation, the Farm Bill, a package to extend expiring tax cuts, criminal justice reform, reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, and passing the Jobs Act 3.0, which is intended to spur capital formation, or, as it probably should be called, screwing the poor. I don't know what version. We've been doing this for 250 years or longer. Also high on the to-do list is a batch of executive judicial branch nominees. Ooh, because we all know how fucking fantastic they've done on the judiciary. Right? Oh, we live in a fascist country. Okay. Including 36 federal district court and 3 circuit court judges. 36 Trump appointees. Whew, that is frightening. Okay. Asked about the agenda for December, Senate Republican Whip John Cornyn of Texas said, nominations. More nominations. Yeah, that's smart. They want to totally transform the judiciary where so many important things are decided, and they are absolutely getting everything they want. So for the people who say, you know, what, do you really want to be like the left version of what the Republicans are doing? Yeah, I do. Because they're getting everything they want. Everything. Trust me. We are like... You know, I'm not sure what's going to get here first, our version of The Handmaid's Tale or our version of Day After Tomorrow. Let's just say it's not good. All right. Many of the legislative items on the GOP agenda could be weighed down or even pushed aside by a partisan brawl over President Trump's demand that Congress fund construction of a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. Quote, there's going to be a major fight over that, and that's going to make progress on other areas difficult, said Representative Tom Cole from Oklahoma, a Republican, a member of the House Appropriations Committee. So, once again, the little tiny sliver of silver lining in the Trump presidency is that because he's an idiot, he gets in his own way a lot. So, luckily, they probably won't get to every part of their agenda, but, I mean, if they get to any part of it, it's frightening. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on Wednesday opened the door to a possible deal by saying Democrats are not opposed to strengthening the U.S. border. And then there's a collective sigh and a smacking of the forehead by every liberal in the country. Quote, we Democrats believe in strong border security, he said, noting that the Senate immigration bill backed by Democrats in 2013 included billions of dollars in border security funding, even though we have net negative immigration. Quote, we're going to keep fighting for the strongest, toughest border security. Now, that last line was not Donald Trump. That was Chuck Schumer. You know, the guy who wouldn't punish Democratic senators who voted for Judge Kavanaugh. Just saying. Cole later said Schumer's remarks could pave the way for a compromise linking border wall funding to legislation shielding immigrants who came to the country illegally as children, known as dreamers, from deportation. This is what bugs me, because if the Democrats don't cooperate, they can't get this through because of the filibuster. They could change the filibuster rule, but I don't know if they do that with I know it's a 1 in 5 chance, but there's a 1 in 5 chance that the Democrats take the Senate. And if they get rid of the filibuster rule, I mean, I don't think they want to go there, but who knows? He also said the natural deal is DACA and the wall, referring to the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that Trump rescinded last year. But Republicans acknowledge that getting a deal on the border wall and other contentious issues will depend on the outcome of the midterm elections. That's the first good news I've heard from this article. What kind of mood the Democrats are in, I don't think we know, Cole said. Schumer on Tuesday said he would discuss Democratic priorities for the lame duck at a later date. Blah, blah, blah. So, basically, they're going to try to ram through whatever they can, you know, with or without the consent of, I don't know, most of the country and nearly half the Senate. But we know the Republicans aren't that big on consent. All right, so let's move on to the next story. This was a very bizarre story. I don't know how else to say it. Also from The Hill. President Trump hosts Kanye West for surreal Oval Office meeting. Yeah. This is very surreal. President Trump on Thursday hosted Kanye West for a wild meeting in the Oval Office days after the rapper made a public display of support for the president. By the way, can we all agree that he needs serious mental help? Like, he needs some kind of serious intervention. There's something wrong with Kanye West. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Trump said, Kanye has been a friend of mine for a long time. West, who was wearing a red Make America Great Again hat, sat across from him at the Resolute desk. The Mercurial rap star then launched into a 10-minute profane monologue touching on his own mental health struggles. Maybe that is where I should start, because that explains why he's there. The pitfalls of the prison system, the 13th Amendment, ways to improve life for African Americans in inner cities, his relationship with sports apparel giant Adidas, as if the 13th Amendment, tactics to improve African American life, and Adidas have anything in common. Oh, and of course, a hydrogen-powered plane he said to replace Air Force One. I mean, seriously. This guy is in the Oval Office talking about hydrogen planes that could replace Air Force One. Oh, and also that he wears Adidas. I don't understand what is happening. Kanye West fans are no strangers to his disjointed speeches, which he frequently delivers at his concerts, but Trump appeared surprised. See, now, Donald, you know how the rest of us feel when we watch you speak. Trump later said, "I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive, huh?" After was concluded, which prompted laughter from the others in the room. "That was quite something." The rapper acknowledges the president might be surprised by his outspoken support. And then he said some stupid stuff. I'm not gonna... I don't know. I feel like it would be easy to be mad at Kanye West, but I don't know. When somebody seems to be having some kind of mental breakdown, it's hard to get mad at them. I mean, except for the president. We can get mad at him. I don't think he's having a mental breakdown per se. I think he was just always that stupid. All right. So that was just kind of a fun, not fun really, but it was just one of those bizarre stories that I thought it'd be interesting to cover, but let's move on to the one that really got my blood pressure going. Oh, one more before we get to that. Okay. Sorry. I know I'm setting everybody up now. Another Trump decree. He says, "I'll overrule Sessions on criminal justice reform." So President Trump on Thursday said he would overrule Attorney General Jeff Sessions if he tries to stymie efforts to overhaul the criminal justice system. "If he doesn't, then he gets overruled by me," Trump said when asked during an interview with Fox and Friends about Sessions' opposition to the effort. Trump said, "There has to be reform because it's very unfair right now. It's very unfair to the African Americans. It's very unfair to everybody. It's also very costly." It's funny because he almost had me on board, saying the criminal justice system is very unfair to African Americans. Agreed. It's very unfair to everybody. No, it's not. It's actually more than fair to the rich, who can get away with pretty much anything, as he should know, because he's a giant tax fraud. But he's right. The system is very costly, so it's hard to argue with him there. Apparently, Jared Kushner has been the one pushing this overhaul of the criminal justice system. Now, the fact that it's going to be the Trump administration, I do not think means that anything they overhaul is going to be particularly good for any community, but specifically the communities of color. So we're going to keep our eye on this, but apparently Sessions is opposed to it, which... I don't know. It makes me think maybe there are some good things in it. They don't have a ton of details in this article about what exactly he's going to reform. But I mean, he hasn't suggested any good pieces of legislation yet. So I wouldn't see that happening anytime soon. Okay. Now we can get to the story that made my blood boil. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It made my blood boil, but then the response and the backlash to it actually kind of made me hopeful for this country. So, on Wednesday, Donald Trump apparently wrote an op-ed piece for USA Today. Now, I'm highly suspicious that... or skeptical, I should say. I'm very skeptical of the idea that he wrote this or that he wrote anything, or that he